All right, we're going to look at another trade here. As we look at the screen, we can go back and look at the trade in EXPE. As you recall, that was a trade where we entered at the 85.61 area, and ultimately it ended up all the way down at the 85.25 area, or right around where it reversed the last time, which was at 85.31 in this area right here. So that would have ended up to be a very nice trade. Now what we're going to do is hope to catch a long trade going back up the other side. The market is down quite a bit today. It's down over 200 points. So we're looking for some rebound here in the afternoon. We're still trading during what I call the dead period between 12 and 2. So we're going to be very cautious in terms of entering trades and only enter a trade if the decision trees tell us that the trade is appropriate. Now, if we look up here on the top left-hand side to the alerts, these are all the alerts that we've received since that Expedia EXPE trade, short trade. You can see here the alert again for that EXPE trade. And what you can do, because the alerts window is linked with our trade evaluation chart, and you can drop down here and link these charts together by putting the same color in the L. When you click on one of the alerts, it'll switch the trade evaluation chart to your to the chart that belongs to the alert that you just activated. And here, this is ADI, and you can see that that alert occurred at 1 o'clock, and actually there's nothing on the chart. Now, sometimes what will happen is you'll get an alert, but you open the chart and you don't see anything. And what has happened there is that the strategies that are being analyzed in the background by NinjaTrader, the alert was triggered, but by the time you pull it up on your chart, the conditions may have changed that the alert went away. You only want to enter trades where when you click on an alert, you actually see a trade signal occurring in the trade evaluation window. But we have all these different trades that popped up since our last video was made about 20 minutes ago. Here's gold at Facebook. Now we have a Facebook trade at 126. That's a new trade. It's 126 right now. It says it's a long trade. Here we see the trade signal on the chart. Decision tree is good. The only other thing we look at is whether there is any resistance around where we're entering the trade, and there is. If you put your cursor on the bar where the trade signal is and scan to the left to see how the stock reacted at that price earlier in the day, you'll see over here in the 1120 range there were several time periods where the stock reached this level and then reversed heavily. That concerns us. We don't want to enter a trade where there's a lot of resistance at or around our entry point or within 10 cents of our entry point. Here there is. Now, can you enter this trade? We probably would not during this time period, not during the dead period of 12 to 2, and only if the decision trees are all completely in our favor and there is a strong uptrend. And that's not the case right now. There's one decision tree on the left-hand side, short term, which indicates that the market may not be in as much of an uptick as the rest of the trees would indicate. So here we have three trees indicating a strong uptick, one indicating a moderate uptick, and one indicating a downtick. So because there's resistance here in this trade, we probably would not enter it. Let's switch to DLTR. That's the alert that just came up while I was talking. Again, here we have a situation where we're not seeing a trade signal that corresponds to the alert. So as a result, we're not going to enter this trade. Chances are the conditions have changed from the time that alert was generated to the time we've switched to it, and we're not going to go ahead and enter that trade at this point in time. Let's see. All right, we've generated, well, we're talking two more alerts, and you can see how these alerts pop up. This is the alert for Guild. Now we do see a trade signal on the chart for this one. Look at the decision trees. We're trading during the dead hours, so we want strong decision trees, and we want nothing negative in the decision trees, particularly since here again we're going to be entering a trade where there is some resistance right here at the 1232 mark. So we're probably going to pass on that trade also. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to end up being profitable. Let's go back and look at the Facebook trade right now. And you can see that trade is starting to move into profitability. And in fact, it's almost broken through the resistance point that occurred at 11.16. But again, I'm cautious at this point in time, at this hour, to enter in any trade where the decision trees are not strongly in our favor if we're going to have to try and break through any resistance. Now, if that other decision tree right here turns in our favor, then I would maybe look at getting into it. Generally, what we tell people is that you can enter the trade anywhere from 1 to 2 bars after the actual alert, assuming that the decision tree turns in your favor during the 1 to 2 bar period. After that, we don't recommend that people go ahead and enter trades. In other words, if you're thinking about entering this trade in another 2 or 3 minutes, which would be 6 to 10 minutes after the original trade signal was generated, we don't recommend that. Let's switch to AMAT. Again, we don't see any trade signal here, so we're going to avoid that. Oh, there is a trade signal here. It's just lower on the chart. And again, the decision trees are not in our favor here, so we're not going to enter into that. Let's switch to CLAC. This is actually a downward trade. The decision tree is, we have neutral on the right side, pretty much neutral on the left side, except for one tree showing a relatively strong downturn. And because the decision tree is not strong enough for me to enter that, I would not go ahead and enter that at this time. Now, the decision trees look at the futures market in different time frames and using different types of technical indicators to tell us what's going to happen with the market. Now, the market here indicates a strong downturn. I'm actually going to go ahead and enter this, sell it short. I sold short 1,000 shares. My entry point is at 724. Now, I did that because we have yellow on all 5 of the decision trees and one dark red on the decision tree, indicating that it's likely that the next move is going to be to the downward side. This is not as good as actually having 3 or 4 red trees in the branches that are now yellow. But having said that, the decision tree is strong enough in our favor that I'm going to go ahead and enter it. And basically, this is a play on the potential that this trade is going to move into the negative area based on the fact that the market's going to take a heavier downturn at some point in the future. And we're making that bet based on the fact that 5 of the trees are yellow at this point in time. And you can see, in fact, that the market is starting to move. The trees are indicating that the market wants to move down even further. You see the flashes of red. Now, the one thing we didn't really do before we entered this trade was look at resistance points. We don't see any resistance points here, but we are trading into the low of the day, which is always a little bit dangerous. The low of the day is 77.24, which was exactly our entry point. So we'll just have to see what happens if this pans out. I'm going to take a short break and we'll come back in a couple minutes. Okay, we're watching this trade and you can see the decision trees are now starting to move down significantly towards the red. So we're hoping to see this trade collapse at some point here in the very near future in response to the decision trees. Right now the ask price is at 77.28, which is what we could get out at. Our entry point was 77.24. We are trading into the low of the day, so there's going to be some significant resistance there. We'll just watch this trade pan out. Alright, we're still at ask of 77.27, so the trade has not moved anywhere, even in spite of the fact that we have some very strong trees indicating downward movement in the market. Now keep in mind 2 things. We're trading a stock that is at the low of the day, so you're going to get some pushback from other traders who look for stocks that are trading at the low of the day for a reversal. And also, we're trading a stock that has already had a significant movement downward. If you notice, this stock is down $1.51 for the day, which is almost more than 2%. And it's sometimes hard to trade stocks that have been moving a significant amount throughout the day. In other words, you're just not going to get the action that you would for a stock that's trading within a specific type of range. When I have situations like this where the stock is not moving in response to the decision tree, I typically just try and get out with any profit that I can. Right now we're at an ask of 25 with a bid of 23. I'm just going to follow it, hope it breaks that 25 area. The other thing, of course, is you have resistance around the 0.25 area, where this is a natural area would be likely to be a bounce back. So we're fighting a number of different things in terms of resistance. We have the 0.25 resistance area, then we have the low of the day. And both of those are probably holding up the stock from dropping in any significant fashion right now. And again, we're also trading during the worst part of the trading day, during the lunch hour. All right, it's broken the 24 entry point and now is into at least an area of break even. I'm going to stick with it because I think there's a little more downward movement here. We're at 22. I'm going to stick with it. We could get out at 22. Our entry was 24. I want to see if it breaks the 20 area. During the lunch hour, we scalp. So if we get 30, 40, $50 out of a trade, we'll take it. Right now, I'm up $10 on this trade. The last sale was 19, so I'd be up 30 if I could get that. But I'm watching. I always watch the ask when I'm covering on short because I know that's what I can get out at for certain. The trees continue to be a bright red, which indicates a very strong downturn. I'm going to stick with this trade for a little bit and hope that it breaks the 20 area. If I can get $50 or $60 out of it, then I'll probably be happy and get out of it. Watching now, it's ask is back up to 22, ask is at 21, ask is up to 23. Sticking with it though, because the decision trees continue to be very bright red. Ask is back up to my entry point of 24. Again, when you're dealing with a stock that's not moving in response to strong decision trees or moving the opposite direction, you need to be very cautious about staying in the trade too long. We could have got out with profit. Now the ask is at 25, so we'd get out with a loss. The ask is back out 23. I'm going to see if it gets down to 23, 20, 21. Come on, baby. All right, now we can get out with a $40 profit. I'm going to go ahead and do that just because I'm unhappy with the speed at which this is closing. So we got out, made $20, and of course, as soon as I got out, it broke down even further and broke down to ask of 17. So you could have made $70, which is always our goal in any trade. $70. Let's just continue to follow it here for a little bit and see where it goes. If this trade were not during the lunchtime hour, I probably would have stayed with it, but let's just continue to watch it. You saw the actual trade. For me, it was out at 20, in at 24, out at 20, $30 profit. That's on top of the $140 profit we made on our last trade, so we're at plus 170 on the two trades that I filmed. We did trade earlier in the morning to some success, so we're on track for a $400 to $700 day at this point in time. All right, it's sticking at 20. The ask is at 18 now. And again, when you're trading short, you're selling at the bid, you're selling short at the bid, and you're going to be covering at the ask. When you're going long, you're buying at the ask and going to be selling at the bid. You need to take those factors into consideration when you're making your trade and analyzing how much profit you're going to make. A couple other things. You'll notice that this trade signal is a little different than the trade signal that you saw on the EXPE trade. We're running the beta software, so we have different trade signals for different versions of the strategies that allow us to know what it was that triggered the trade. The only thing you need to know is that if the signal occurs above the chart, it's a short trade. If the signal occurs below the chart, it's a long trade. We're sticking with this. Notice how the decision trees have remained in a negative state this whole time. You probably just saw that the ask was down to 77.14, which would have been a plus 0.10, plus 10 cents on our trade. If you had chosen to get out there, let's just continue to watch it, and I'll check in another minute or two, and we'll see where it's at that point in time. Our system is designed like playing a hand of blackjack. You play your hand, you play your trade signal, and then you get out. This is not a system designed to keep you in trades for hours and hours and hours, or to fill gaps. The system is designed and has been coded to look for short-term trades where your profit potential is 7 to 15 cents. Why? Because it's much easier to predict where a stock will be in the next couple minutes than it is to predict where it will be in 2 hours. We look to make 7 to 12 trades a day, profit of $70 to $150 per trade. We look for a failure rate of about 10%. In other words, 1 in 10 trades won't work out. Now, we will say this, that figure varies a lot depending on who's trading and how patient they are. Patience is the key. Trading with the decision tree is the key. That greatly improves your prospects of having a profitable trade. We're going to continue to watch this CLAC trade. Right now it's ask at 77.18, but let's continue to watch it. Again, we're probably nearing a point where this trade at some point is going to reverse at some point in time, simply because as you near the whole number, that becomes another natural reversal point. So if it breaks down and hits into the 77.10 area and it came close, you're likely to start seeing people try and bid it up long for a bounce off that whole number.